unless the database says otherwise. And thus, regardless what your, we can try it, right? Regardless what my altimeter setting is here, I can totally screw that up. The vertical guidance here is based on what is called ellipsoid height. Oh, another very interesting topic where I had to dig really deep into the X-plane engine and change the Earth's gravitational model to get the ellipsoid height that is in the GPS databases to the correct autometric heights that we have in X-plane. And you need a world gravitational model to get this right. So yeah, that took a while to figure out also. Okay, so we are flying down this virtual glide slope and virtual localizer now. And what you can see here is, well, the autopilot is doing a little shuffle. For one, because I've set up a little bit of wind and wind shear and turbulence in the weather menu. So this is why it's shuffling around a bit. But you're also seeing something that you also see in the real plane, and that I had trouble with coming back from this FAA meeting when I flew back to North Carolina. And that is that the autopilot doesn't expect angular sensitivity coming from the GPS, because the GPS usually has linear sensitivity. And if the autopilot is not expecting that, the closer you get to the runway, with an ILS signal it would be perfectly stable, but with the GPS signal it starts to shuffle a little bit because it doesn't anticipate the sensitivity getting higher. All right, and if we now look out front, we're coming up to our minimum altitude in about 50 feet. Okay, I'm going to deactivate the autopilot now. This is getting ridiculous. And fly the rest by hand. Minima, continue, and there you go. We're actually coming up right at runway 18, and I'm now going to put down this plane at this historical airport where I made my first solo landing in a 172 some 3 years ago. And of course I'm coming in way too high and way too fast, as always when I'm in the sim, because I never land in the sim. I only fly to the approach minima and then I execute the missed approach. So flaps 1, full power, and again the same thing happened. The GPS went into suspend mode because it has no idea are we going to fly the missed approach or not. I click unsuspend and bloop, the missed approach is active. And put the autopilot on, GPS mode, flaps up, and it'll fly our missed approach. There we go, perfect. And as you saw, as the second I unsuspended the missed approach, two things happened. Well, the vertical guidance, of course, disappeared. And the sensitivity went back from LPV to terminal mode, which means the CDI is now back to linear sensitivity, which you immediately notice if you look what the autopilot is doing. The autopilot is perfectly stable, apart from the little wind. And it's just flying, tracking the course perfectly, which it had trouble with in angular mode. But again, I've had the same thing happen on a real airplane to me, so not an X-plane bug here. Okay, and I guess that's all I have. LPV approaches, circling only approaches. Oh, one final thing that we've also added, or I've also added. Let's pretend we're going to in the 172 directly from South Carolina to Seattle, which we probably can't, but just for the sake of argument, let's put Seattle in here. Accept. Okay, yep. Whatever, track direct course to Seattle. It's only 2014 miles from here. Yeah, fine, whatever. Do it. And if I now open the approaches for Seattle, look, there we go. New category you haven't seen before, RNP approaches, required navigation performance. You won't see these on a real 430 GPS because RNP is authorization required. So even if you had them in the GPS, you still wouldn't be allowed to fly them because you need operator authorization to fly RNP approaches. But in X-Plane, hey, we don't care. The FAA is not coming after us simmers. So we put the RNP approaches in the database as well. So if you're curious as how that works, yeah, RNP approaches is in the SIFT data as well, and localizer and your regular RNAV approaches. All right, that's pretty much all I have. Yeah, no, we're not going to fly to Seattle, especially because we are probably close to empty. Yeah, remember when I started the stream, we started out with full tanks, and we've been flying around a bit, and we have used what? 10 gallons? No. Yeah, this is actually a bug we have on the master right now. Austin tuned something in the flight model, and everything right now is using 4 times as much fuel as it's supposed to be. Austin supposedly fixed it yesterday. I don't have this fix yet. Yeah. Everything is work in progress. Everything's moving. Okay, that's all I have for you tonight. I have no idea if this is if this is like automatically saved or something. I don't know if I put the stream offline now, if I can somehow transfer the video to YouTube so other people can watch it. I have no idea if this works. I'll try to do that and archive it. Okay, let's take a look at one final look at the chat. Relationship of the GNS, the XP autopilot, the XP default FMS in terms of the logic code that overlaps. That's an interesting question. So the GNS 430 and the new FMS, let's put it that way, is the same code. And actually there's a lot of code overlap between the 757, the flight factor 757 FMS, and the GNS 430. That's just to make my life easier, because if someone finds a bug in the LNAV of the X-Plane default GPS, I fix that code and I merge it over to the flight factor 757, and we get 2 birds with 1 stone, right? So the goal is to do this with the rest of X-Plane as well. Sure. And the autopilot is actually standalone in X-Plane and not shared with the 757 or any other of the planes. So yeah, the autopilot is actually not my area of expertise. This is code that Austin and Andy Goldstein wrote and refined. It is the X-Plane autopilot right now is actually so much better. It is light years better than any real world autopilot I have ever used. I have flown a lot of different airplanes by now. and I've used all kinds of autopilots from the legendary Piper Nav-O-Matic from 1972 or whatever, which actually works astonishingly well, to the new GFC 700 autopilot, or the Aztec 550, or Evidine Series 6, whatever. I don't know, whatever the current Evidine autopilot is. And none of those real-life autopilots, whether they are from 1973 or whether it's a full-blown GFC 700, none of those autopilots work even close to as accurate and as great as the X-Plane autopilot is. Oh, all right. That's it. Okay, I'm done, and I need a drink. So until yesterday there was Weinfest in Wiesbaden, and right now there's no more wine. I have no wine at home, not even a beer. It's terrible. I think I can only get water now. Okay, whatever. That was a great experience. That was great fun. First time on Twitch ever. That was very educational, and I hope I can archive the video and other people can have fun with it too. And I'm saying goodbye. Goodbye from Wiesbaden, Germany, where it's 10:45 now, and I'll go to bed now. Good night. Are you sure you want to stop the stream? Yes.